So I will start by sharing my screen and we go further from there. So I think we all have met, at least I had a feeling that you are looking very familiar. So I think the kickoff event that we had, we probably met each other. But shortly, I would like to introduce myself so that you sort of know the background of me and why I'm talking about certain topics inside the project and maybe not that much about English language teaching. So my background is from higher education, but also from the basic education and vocational. I've been working 10 years in the University of Applied Sciences here in middle of Finland, in Jyväskylä, and then 4 years in vocational education as a teacher in business field. And then I've been teaching the 8th and 9th graders about entrepreneurship. So that's my kind of connection point to the basic education. And while I was studying in the university, I did some that I was like substitute for the teachers in the basic education and the lower grades, 1 to 5, but also the upper grades, different subjects, and as a classroom teacher. So from there, of course, I have some experience of how to sort of run through, for example, the project with the students in different ages. And I have 3 children of my own, which of course gives me a very good playground with my topics. They are not yet saying that they are kind of bored of my questioning all the time, but I find it very interesting when I ever have a good idea. So I've kind of played through with my kids, and that has been very helpful for me. And now I've been working in EduCluster Finland already 5 years. So we are university-owned company, and that's why it's very important that we are able to sort of share the knowledge and research that our owners, the University of Jyväskylä, University of Applied Sciences, JAMK, and then the vocational school Gradia are providing. And now again, if I'm thinking about the training program in Hungary and also here in Finland, our owners and their expertise, of course, will be highly present, and you are able to meet the professionals from our owner organizations. Now, if we are concentrating on the project-based learning, there are many aspects why to benefit on that. And I think the main thing is that we all know from the point of view of individualization that we have a classroom full of different kind of learners. So it's obvious that some of them are eager to learn the way that they just want to sit in their own chair and table and listen to the teacher. Some are more visual, some need more group work, teamwork, and then that's kind of an aspect of what we can or the goal that we can reach when we are using the project-based learning. I know that with Edith, you were discussing about the Kolbe and the learning cycle, and this is very, in a way, in a very big picture when we talk about project-based learning, because you can do, for example, if you design the curriculum and you think like each academic year you have 1 or 2 big projects at the school, they might be the same students taking part of the project, let's say from the grade 1 to 6 or upper grades 7 to 9, like here in Finland. So again, it's a learning journey for them, but also through this type of observation, reflection, and then concrete experience and so on. But of course, with the smaller projects, all in all, the main idea that we are able to provide these tools and methods for our pupils, for our students, to prepare them and to help them to learn. So the idea, I'm sure you are very aware of the project-based learning, but I think it's important to highlight that when we are doing and implementing the project-based learning, we want to first of all, create the learning environment that is very positive and that is encouraging, because as in many other group works, the students are learning from one another. Usually with the project-based learning, they start with a question, a problem or challenge, which they are then starting to solve together as a team, but of course with the help and facilitation of the teacher. And as we know that the project-based approach is highly in every working place. It's we are facing it in our free time, of course, in our later studies. So it is in that sense important that we take this kind of approach already with the lower grade pupils, and then we are using this method in a school. And again, if we think about how to prepare the students for succeed in their life and how they can then succeed in a working life, I think one of the best skills that they have is this kind of a project-based mentality and a mindset, so that they will understand that some things are done and they are implemented as a project, and they're able to use the timeline and resources inside the certain topics and cases. So in literature, there are some basic elements about the project-based learning, and there are 7 characteristics that are listed in here. First of all, the student is sort of focusing on a question and challenge, and that it is like it is a given challenge for them that they are trying to solve, or at least somehow responds to that. So they need to start doing some research, negotiations, and other sort of working together as a team. So it's not just a task in a book or in a leaflet. And also it brings the academic know-how to understandable level, because usually the challenge which are either created together with the students or something that the teachers are giving to the students are thought in a way that there are many aspects inside of that question or that challenge. So the students are definitely able to use all of their skills. And it's inquiry-based way of going further. And as said, those 21st century skills that are in all important to know, they're definitely being used in here. And also a thing that we are trying to teach our pupils to reflect that what have they learned and what they need to learn more. But also we're trying to, of course, help them to take the feedback and give the feedback, because when they're working in a teams, they need to be able to say out loud what they think, and they need to be able to give the feedback. But also as important is to take the feedback from other students. I think all the students and pupils are very familiar of taking the feedback from the teacher, because this is the continuous discussion between the student and teacher. But then again, it would be very beneficial also for if the students and pupils would be able to give the feedback for the teacher, and of course the teacher to take the feedback, both positive and maybe something that are, not to say negative, but like things that probably have not gone that well that they should. And usually one element of project-based learning is that in the end of the project, the students need to present their ideas. First of all, the starting point, what is the challenge? What is the problem that they are facing? What kind of methods they're using, how they approach the challenge, what have they done as a team, as a group, and then what is the end result that they have came up with. And while they are presenting that, again, we are talking about the 21st century skills. How would they presenting skills, using the technical devices, maybe using a different language while doing the presentations and so on. So all in all, if we are looking at the benefits, it prepares the students for the challenges that it's happening outside the school, and it will help them later on also to understand that there are different kind of opportunities, even like in work-wise, that they are works that are built as a project and may not mean that you are working in the same company for many years. And then again, they can sort of productize their own knowledge and think about what kind of project would their knowledge be needed. And one of the, has been discussing with the teachers who are using the project-based learning with their students, they mostly say that it is very motivating from the student's point of view, but also from the teacher's point of view, and gives this sort of excitement and something extra for the ordinary days that they have at school. And maybe this is the same thing that all kind of working in a groups, that's definitely you work together with your friends and with your classroom colleagues. It's always something extra and nice. But with the project-based learning, you have this starting point, and then you have sort of the time frame and the structure, and then you have the end. And also you can reflect how you did the project. So the whole doing and implementing the project is as important as it is the end, where you are able to see whether things went well and then what is the end goal that you have received. And then of course the challenges, if we are looking at the normal schedules of the school, they might be challenge of finding the time. And even though if we think about, okay, we can just use the classroom hours that we have, then there might be a challenge how to sort of take the content that you were planning to do with your students inside the project, so that the project is actually serving for the purpose that's and that you're able to run through the topics that you have to run through with your students. For example, the year of the week or during the certain month. So those would be the biggest challenges for today's schools, but also, of course, the uncertainty and the thing that you never know beforehand whether the project will be successful. But the thing that you definitely know that your students will learn. They may not learn exactly those things that you have in your own list, but definitely they will learn something. They will learn the 21st century skills. They will learn how to work together, but maybe the theoretical part is not that highlighted that it would be if it would be like a normal classroom setting. But then again, these are mainly the things that the teachers, when they're working together, they can solve these kind of challenges. And again, if now thinking about the English language teaching, if we have the subject teacher working together with us, or we have a classroom teacher working together with us, we can then combine the subjects, or we can kind of think about some bigger project and not just a small thing related to our own subject only. And as I said, there are many different kind of examples, and this one here is one example of very light and easy task that they did in one of the schools here in Jyväskylä, and it's a tea time project. This has been implemented with the grades 7 and 8, but also would be possible with the lower grades. Again, if it's a classroom teacher who is also an English teacher, or classroom teacher with the English capability, I don't see any problem of using this kind of approach with the 5th, 6th graders as well. So the challenge here was quite huge, but they took very sort of a light approach to it. So the challenge was that how to create a motivative learning environment inside the school, and now especially towards the English language learning. So how can we make the learning environment motivating and interesting, and at the same time we would learn English? And this class, they decided that they would do this kind of a tea time. So almost like a virtual tour, but actually it was more hands-on tour to the England and the tea rooms and everything that these tea rooms have to offer in England. So the planning was mainly done by the students. Now again, the teacher's role was to facilitate the planning, but also facilitate then the whole implementation. So the students were decorating the home economics classroom. So they were kind of creating this kind of an English tea room inside the school. And as the call was the inspirational learning environment, they were using quite a lot of effort to do the decorations and thinking about what could be inside of that tea room. And the award, what they were kind of planning, that how to word this, how to put the wording into this project, was that if they are able to sort of motivate their schoolmates to study English, and if they are able to motivate all the other students while going through this type of English tea time hour or two, that would be very helpful inside the school. So the whole idea started that the students were listing out that what does it mean if they want to build this type of English tea house, English tea time event. Starting like very simple thing, what to bake, looking and googling the recipes and ingredients that are needed, decorating the classroom, first of all creating the decorations to the classroom, responsibilities, who is doing what, and then of course a timeline. So this was like very again a light version of the huge project, because there wasn't many weeks for doing this. I said that this was done with the 7th and 8th graders, so they were doing all this planning in English lessons. And of course you cannot just take the English lesson and start talking about what to bake, so you needed to do everything in English. Again, now the role of the teacher is important, because obviously the students are not able to do all the discussions in English, so they decided that they had the listing of the words like ingredients. So that was the one task of 2 persons to find out what does it mean if in Finnish it says milk, and then in English, okay, what is that, and so on. They made this list, so they were studying the words at the same time when they are listing out the ingredients and checking the recipes. When they were finding out what to bake, then they also of course they were able to find those quite easy from the Finnish sites of going to internet, but also they were visiting the local bakeries and then trying to find out the names of the cakes and all the specialities that they are in these tea rooms and tea houses in England. The decoration, of course, as the students say, that they could have used much more hours on this one, and if they would have been the class teacher, if they would have been like a class teacher and a grades from, let's say 3 to 6, they could have used more hours to do the decorations. But now, since they had only the English hours, English language hours, so they did not use that much time for that. Luckily, the teachers had some decorations already, which they were able to use. But this is like a sort of a light approach to the fact that in the end, the students were able to showcase that they are part of this kind of creating the learning environment. they are part of studying the language in very different kind of surroundings, again, because they were in the home economics classroom. And as much as possible, it was suggested that they would use the English. So all the time that they were doing the cooking, they were discussing in English as much as it was possible, but also while they had everything ready and they were like decorations on the table, of course, then it was the discussion was run and held through the teacher who was able to help them, the students, with the right wording. The feedback of this type of small project has been very good, and now the pictures you see here, they are not all from this same group, because you can see that some of the children here are much younger. So these are not, they are in a home economics classroom, but they do not, their study does not related to this English language teaching. It's mainly the home economics as it is. But now it has been discussed that maybe we could take the lower grades with us, and maybe we could even combine the upper grades. Let's say that we take the 9th graders who English is already in a level that they can easily have a conversation and they would know the wordings. So when we take the lower grades, like 5th graders, and take them together in a home economics classroom, the lower grade pupils can sort of start by learning the wordings and then help the cooking, but then the upper grade students can do the talking at the same time. Of course, the lower grade students can then easily take up the words and learn the language. And then the following steps, which are not even listed in here, but as I talk with the teachers, they are now planning if they could have a week, this kind of a team week, that they would have first 2-3 days could be one language, for example, now the English, probably the easiest way to approach. And then maybe the following 2 days could be another language taught in the school, Spanish, German. So they would be both like the language point of view to approach, and then there would be this kind of a gastronomy point of view. Because again, I haven't ever seen a student who was not willing to eat something nice and salty or sweet. So I think it's very easy to motivate the student to do some home economics, and then they are able to enjoy what they have been cooking. So now, all in all, if we are looking at how to get started, this kind of light versions can be easily done together with the one classroom, and again, especially if you are teaching the lower grades, and at the same time you are a classroom teacher. With those combinations, you have like more freedom and more time to use in these. But to think about if there's some topics, if you're looking at the curriculum and your weekly or monthly plan, that could be taking not to take the lectures and book learning, but then again step outside and take some sort of a small project. That could be the first step. And many times, as it says here, that instead of planning a massive project, sometimes it is nice to think big, but then again, it would be easier to start something small. Like in this case, just take 1 or 2 classes to do some home cooking and decorations related to the language learning, and then maybe the following year have a whole week for many other classes and not just for one. And of course, important when we are talking about the project-based learning is that we do not assess in a normal way. They cannot be exam, because the idea, like in this one, it is not that how well you do the cooking. It's more or less like how much you are able to benefit your learning process while you do the cooking. How many words you would then remember later on, and would that bring you the authentic feeling of like being in London when you hear the language, maybe you hear some music related to that, then you're able to have the visual elements in front of you, and you're able to smell and taste something that is very, very unique. So then you don't need the exam. There are other ways to have the discussion with the students and evaluate the project. And again, the self-assessment is in a very important role here. And then the last thing, it is challenging if you are trying to manage to do these type of projects, even that they are small ones by yourself. Again, in this one, there are two teachers involved. The other one was the home economics teacher and the other one was the language teacher, because then they can combine the planning and getting the ingredients, doing the decorations with the students, running through the whole program, and then, of course, closing it up. And at the same time, of course, when we are working together and collaborating with other teachers, we are definitely learning more from each other. So it's not just what we have to offer, but also what the others have to offer, and how can we benefit of what we have. I have listed here some of the questions that I faced before when we are talking about the project-based learning. And usually the first one is related to pedagogical thinking and solutions, like if there's something that is needed before to get started. And here I really want to highlight that there isn't any. You can do very small and light project-based approach together with your students, and it doesn't have to be something that is lasting like many hours or many days. It can be inside your lesson and 1 hour lesson. And then again, the thing is that there is this kind of a question or problem, and the students start solving it, and in the end they will get the feeling that, okay, there was a challenge at the beginning, but they solved it, and then they know they have learned. And the same thing goes with the learning environment. Of course, this type of thing that you are using the home economics classroom, or you are using the sports facilities to do some kind of sports event or other stuff, those are very good. And of course, it's always from the point of view of your pupils and students, it's nice to go outside the classroom. But of course, also inside the classroom, it's important that you're able to create the learning environment with the tiny little changes in a physical learning environment, but the most important is the feeling and atmosphere that there is. Then choosing the project, I think even though if you would hand out the list that there are so many projects that other schools have done, I think the important thing is that you feel confident of the topic, and you are interested of the topic, because the students and the pupils, they realize and recognize if you are just running through the project, or if you are really keen on doing it, and you want to go through that with your students. So I think that's probably the first thing, to kind of have these discussions with yourself, that what kind of project you are interested in, and would that then be good for your students. Well, I think this the traditional roles of teachers and students, this is in everything. I think when we talk about in a kickoff meeting, when we first time meet, I was talking about the student-centered approach. I think the same thing in here, that you just need to trust your students and kind of think that, okay, this is now, even though you facilitate the project, they are the ones to run it. And then your guidance and support is highly needed and welcome, but then again, you need to kind of let go of the control in that sense, and let your students to do the work. Because if they then think that they need to ask everything from you and sort of asking permission, it's not that kind of a learning process that it would be when they realize actually this is now their project, and they take the lead. And this would probably sort of continue as the same, that when you're okay with your role, and you realize that the importance of facilitate and support the students, then you can easily tolerate the uncertainty and maybe even a confusion. Because of course, when they are teamwork and a project with many pupils doing the same projects, it may not go the way you have planned, but then again, it may go differently, which is even better, and which would then benefit the students even more, especially their learning processes. Then which grades are the best ones to use project-based learning? Again, now if we are taking the upper grades, which usually is the most obvious, of course, they sort of understand the meaning of the project. They would definitely understand their roles, and they would be probably more interested about running it and thinking about what can they learn during the whole process. But in my experience, when I've been teaching the entrepreneurship training for the lower grades, I think the 4th and 5th graders are as excited as the upper graders. And then again, if we are taking the project that would suit their level and the content that you are teaching them, there's no limitation as such. Why should we skip them? And of course, with the 1st graders, we might have something very easy, but again, that they will understand that this is how it starts and this is required from them to do. And then there is an end and sort of an assessment time together. So that would be more like learning through play, but the elements from the project-based learning can easily be there.